This was a simple 4K recording. It runs smoothly. Here, I duplicated this recording 100 times and you can see it doesn't even load. Here it is. But you can see it plays smoothly here, that there's nothing. And then these start to load up and you can see how it lags. The playhead is just jumping ahead. This is not a good experience. But a computer is not a problem. The way we set up videos and the Premiere Pro itself is the problem. So how do we fix this? First, let's go over the basics and some settings that you can change inside of Premiere Pro, which can boost the performance of Premiere Pro on your computer. Now if we go to File, Project Settings, General, and under the renderer, make sure you're using Metal if you're on Mac, or CUDA if you're on Windows. This just means that Premiere Pro will take advantage of your GPU, which can significantly increase your Premiere Pro performance. Okay, so we checked the GPU, what about the memory? Go to Settings, Memory, and here you will see how much RAM your computer has and how much is it available for that specific program. So in this example, for Premiere Pro. So in my example, we can see that I have 12 gigabytes available for Premiere Pro, while the program itself doesn't touch the other 6 gigabytes reserved for other applications. That just means that if Premiere Pro uses all 12 gigabytes of RAM, it won't use any of that because it saves that RAM for other applications. So if we want to maximize the performance of Premiere Pro, we want to reduce this number as low as it goes. Generally, this allows you to drop the reserved memory for other applications down to 3 gigabytes. And now you can see that we increased the amount that is available to Premiere Pro. Make sure to click OK to save any changes. And now let's take a look at the catch. That might be the catch of why your Premiere is lagging. So now our goal is to delete media cache that might be slowing down your computer. For this, we go to settings again, but this time we are interested in media cache. Here we have a few very important options. One is the location of the media cache database. This is where Premiere Pro will save files that it can then pull from the database instead of rendering that part again, and that can in theory increase the performance of the program. However, if that database gets very large, first of all, it's hard for the Premiere Pro to browse in it, and second, it takes up a lot of space in your computer. So it's bad for the performance of the Premiere Pro as well as for your space, which you might be running out of for other stuff. So why is the location important? One and obvious one is that it will take some space wherever you put it. So if it is on your computer, it will take space there. So you might want to allocate it to an external disk if that's an option. But make sure that whatever disk you are allocating it to, that it's fast. Because the most important thing about the media cache is that it's fastly accessible. So just remember not to use an HDD or any other slow drive and try to allocate this to somewhere that is both fast and that you have enough space. I will just leave it on my computer because my computer disk is very fast, and unless you're fighting for the gigabytes, that's a good option if your internal disk is fast. Otherwise, just move this to another location. Same goes for this location up here for the files. Now, another very interesting thing is this management system that is set up by default to do not delete cache files automatically, which basically means that whatever Adobe stores there, it will keep it there forever. Now imagine a project you were working on like 2 years ago. You don't need the preview files and other cache files of that project you will never open again in your database. As I mentioned earlier, this causes two problems. One is obviously the storage, and the second is, as this database gets larger, it's less and less efficient. So as this builds up over the years, it's not as efficient as it was before. So it makes sense to automatically delete cache files older than a given amount of days. 90 days is a good example, because how often do you work on a project for a longer period of time than 3 months? Another option is to delete the oldest cache files when the cache exceeds a given amount of storage. That's also a good option, but it needs a more researched decision from your end, because it depends on how big of the database you want to keep. That very much depends on the type of project you are working on. So for the simplicity's sake, let's select automatically delete cache files older than, let's say, 90 days. There might be a pop-up warning you, so just click OK, and click OK again to save the settings. And after all that, let's see how my playback is now. This is smooth, as it always was, so we're really interested in this. If we try to play, we can see this is much better, but then it starts lagging again, and that's not much better anymore. Why is that? Well, sometimes the videos playing all at once are just too complex for our machine. And that's okay. And what can we do in that kind of situation? Your answer are proxies or encoding. What that means that the original video can be either scaled down and shown in lower resolution. That is a proxy. So you would just set up proxies with right-clicking and then selecting proxy, create proxies, and you will be asked to select a frame size, which is 1/4 by default, which just means it will be scaled down to 1/4 of the size it's originally at. So this is 4K, so it will be at Full HD resolution. Now this is a very important step, because ProRes is much easier to read and encode by Premiere Pro and other editing programs, while this video and many of other videos, believe me, that you have, are in H.264 format, so MP4 of some kind. So these are basically very good videos for playback, so when you are watching YouTube or whatever, they basically always come in this format. But for an editing program, ProRes is much better, because it's not as compressed, so the file size is bigger. That's why it's very bad for the internet, but it takes less computer power to encode it, so to show it to you. So this is why we want to select another encoding. Remember how I said you can make proxies in smaller size or encode in a different format, as you will. This workflow actually does both at once, so we are having 1/4 of the resolution and another format of the video. You can also select watermark icon, which will just remind you that you are currently watching a proxy file. So let's do this, just so you can see. So later on, when you export, it will automatically use the original media, so you don't have to worry about this. It will never use proxy items to export. It will just use them for you to preview when working on your video inside Premiere Pro. So that's a very great option. And lastly, you can select where the proxy files will be stored. So by default, this is just next to original media in proxy folder, which is great. Why not? Click OK, and this will open your media encoder, where you can see that the video you selected will be transcoded into a proxy file. So just like that, we are watching the proxy file inside Premiere Pro. We selected that we wanted this icon to appear, so you can see it down here. It looks like this. That's how you know you are watching a proxy file. So this works fine, as it always did. If we move here and try to play this, you can see that this works much better. But of course, it's still lagging, because as I said, this is more than 100 4K clips. And remember, now they are Full HD because of the proxy, playing all at once, so that's still too much. So what you can also do is select an in and out points with E and O on the keyboard, and once you selected your area of interest that you want to smoothly preview, go to sequence, render into out. So this will start a rendering process that will pre-render everything that is located here, and that way it will be much easier for your computer to show you that part of the video, because it's pre-rendered. Remember that anytime you change anything in that range, it won't be pre-rendered anymore because it got changed. But if you want to quickly check a part of your video during your editing, this is a way that guarantees you a smooth playback. So once that's rendered, you can see that the line here turned green, and we can preview it smoothly without dropping any frames. But of course, as we go out, it starts lagging again. You can see these are proxy files, but still, you know, too much is too much. I really tried to overwhelm my computer with this, and it seems like I did. But even if your computer is overwhelmed after every possible thing that we mentioned today, you can always select in and out points and go to sequence render in and out, just as we did, and you will see this green line that will always be able to be played smoothly. Of course, you can right click here and select clear in and out to get rid of that box, and you will still have pre-rendered this sequence. As I mentioned, if you change anything, so if I drag this to another location, it won't be pre-rendered anymore. You can see it also needed a moment to show us a preview even, because this is again a section that is hard to preview. I hope you don't have too many projects where you have to show hundreds of videos at a time, just like I did in this example, to overwhelm my computer. So as long as this is not the case, all the things we learned today should help you to maintain the smooth preview. Please let me know if this is the first time you will be using proxies or preview files, or any other options that we mentioned today, so I can know what's really useful for you guys. Please like this video if you found it useful, and see you in the next one.